Then we got this story, which we've covered previously and warned of the dangers. And here's further evidence now that's come forward. The psychedelic powers of a traditional Amazonian plant medicine called ayahuasca are attracting more and more tourists. It's said to bring spiritual enlightenment and to help with addiction, depression, and trauma. But a string of allegations suggest there is a darker side to the ayahuasca scene. Rebecca, who's in the story, says the healer sexually abused her and coerced her into sexual acts, and said, because he was a shaman, I thought he had a moral superiority in a sense, and I trusted him. Now, after she was abused, she left the centre and the country, and she said, I booked a flight and got the hell out of there. But she was left with a tangle of painful emotions, disgust, repulsion, betrayal, and also confusion, as well as to why a guide would do this, why a teacher would do this, and why they would exploit their power like that. Because that's what it's merely there for. Sorry. Now, Rebecca's alleged abuser is still the head shaman at his centre, which gets 5-star ratings on his review sites. And she said he's still there, and she's deeply angered by the situation. And during the interview said there are other centres that I know of as well that are still operating. There have been multiple women who have been sexually abused in these centres. Now, it's not just the centres she was talking about in South America. It was also stated that experiences of sexual abuse seem to be widespread in this world, and we've heard numerous allegations against numerous healers and read many testimonies of sexual abuse via online forums. One name that comes up repeatedly is Guillermo Alavello, a well-known healer who has been honoured by the Peruvian Congress for his work on sustainable development, very UN term there, who also travelled to Canada many times, no surprise there either, and there was reports of sexual abuse of a woman in her 40s who the report called as Anna. But this is another story that adds further proof that has been put out by this show. These so-called spiritual retreats are not for the purpose of enlightenment at all. As we discovered with the Tibetan and Hindu retreats, it's riddled with potions of poison, sexual abuse, and control and abuse elements. Disturbing chants or mantras, all done in front of mandalas, that the average person, including these shamans I might add, have no idea what the intentions are behind them. None whatsoever. And the same applies with other aspects like tantric and yoga. Hello, I'm a multi-titled yoga expert. Okay, fine. Question: do you teach your students to shield before doing the yoga practice? And we're back to crickets again, followed by, who are you to ask me? I'm the expert, I've studied this for blah blah years. Exactly would be my response. Because the problem is the people who taught them were not fully aware either, or in on it. And it's the blind leading the blind. And essentially these ceremonies that you're taking part in, you have no idea what you're getting into. You might think you do. You don't. Well, it says on the tin it's spiritual. But what is spiritual? Well, it's about enlightenment. Okay. What is enlightenment? Well, it's improving the self. So if it's improving the self, why do you need others or potions to do it? Because you don't. Ayahuasca is not something to be recommended by anyone. It's a poison, and it makes you sick temporarily. But the real sickness it leads to can last the rest of your lives. Spirit host possession by dark force entities. And those that choose to ignore that advice are foolhardy in the extreme. They'll tell you, these centers and these Hindu and Tibetan groups, you need others to do the spiritual work. Why did he tell you that? To keep you in the externalization system is why. It's no different to religion. You need them to become enlightened. Bollocks you do. Chanting words, you have no idea what they mean and even less of their intentions, particularly when most have zero knowledge of spellcasting. Chant on mandalas. When I proved in the From Russia with Love 8 piece, the main mandala in India is a representation of a sacrifice humans center. And you're all chanting on it? That invokes their fake gods. All hail Shiva, our great god, who wants to come down, kill our fellow men, women and children for him. Sacrifice. Like Angkor Wat, another sacrifice centre in Cambodia. And yet we're told that Shiva protects them. I don't think so. There goes that common sense thinking again. And a lack of thinking and questioning on everything has damaged us all. Here comes Shiva, who turns up like a helicopter blade with several sets of arms, and no one asks, where did the extra arms come from? Is that human? Or is it some chimera mix with a bug? And it's like the talking snake story. If an Indian person goes to the doctor and says, I just saw some guy come down out of the sky riding an elephant and he has 4 sets of arms and spoke to me and told me I'm the chosen one. What happens next? You get locked up and put on severe medication and called a conspiracy theorist. And yet millions follow that ridiculous narrative and believe in it. Wake up, people. They tell you what Shiva is all about right in your faces, and yet so many ignore it. Shiva is known as the destroyer.